Okay, we've seen fighters age overnight in the ring, straight from looking good to looking very, very terrible. And we've seen fighters give numerous excuses and change coaches time without number just to say the coach isn't good enough and, of course, move on to the next one. In this fight, these two things happened. I don't know if one should, but one must credit the coaching system of Bomac, Terence Crawford's coach. Eubank looking his career best after all these years, and by consequence, making Liam Smith look as terrible as he has ever looked in the ring for 12 rounds. The fight lasted 10 rounds anyway. I don't think he even won a round, to be fair. From round 5, it was clear that Liam Smith had nothing else to offer in this fight. And just like we saw in the Spence Crawford fight, Eubank dragged the fight along until the ref stopped it 5 rounds later in the 10th. Chris Eubank Jr. has suffered heavy criticism so far for failing to live up to the glorious hype of his last name and seemingly being British level at best. Incapable of beating any true world champions, the loss against George Groves set his career back a few years. However, notwithstanding, is it possible to see one last surge towards a world championship for Eubank? He has already called out Triple G, who in many people's opinion would wash him, even though he's over the hill. But I still credit him for acting like he wants the fight. It'll be a big fight too, so the question is it possible for Eubank to get in contention, talk more of winning a world title? And then, speaking of Bomac, man, we need to talk about Bomac a lot more. Like I said, boxing is in the excuse era. So every time a fight ends, there will always be excuses. Tony Bellew has already come out to say, well, Liam Smith, he did not look the way, he did not look like the Liam Smith we have always known. He did not look like himself in there. There must be something wrong. At the end of every fight, everybody just wants to make excuses. But then, when you talk about, how bad a fighter looks, all you're doing is giving credit to the guy that made him look that terrible. So in this case, Eubank Jr. was able to make Liam Smith look worse than he has ever looked. And not just that, the single denominator here is Bomac, because remember, after the Terence Crawford fight, same excuses, it was not the same Aerospence, something was different, something. So it seems to me like Bomac has found a way to take away or to negate the best attributes of whichever opponent his fighter is going up against. And you also have to give credit to Roy Jones for starting the work with Eubank Jr. a while back. But Bomac may have just put the finishing touches to it. So, all in all, does Chris Eubank Jr. have a legitimate shot at making world championship level at this point in his career? Jude Bellingham has slotted in effortlessly into Real Madrid's team. I always said that there was a seriousness to him that you don't find in most British players, which might be as a result of the fact that he didn't play in the UK throughout his teenage years. So he didn't get pampered and, obviously overhyped into stardom like most others. He really looks established in this Madrid team and is already looking like it is his team. He's not looking like he just arrived in the team. He's looking like this is my team, like he owns the team. Sometimes what hinders players from greatness is their shyness, coiling away from big responsibilities to allow others take the center stage, like we saw when Gareth Bale moved to Real Madrid. Despite how great Bale was on the pitch, he just seemed to be comfortable allowing Ronaldo to grab all the headlines. Granted, Ronaldo was the man, but I always felt that despite Bale's greatest efforts, his ego wasn't big enough to fight for the spot of number 1 at Madrid. And even on this greatest night of his life, scoring 2 goals against Liverpool in the Champions League final, Ronaldo once again stole the spotlight as he immediately announced he was leaving Real Madrid just after the final ended. So Bellingham can own his own, turf and not let the pressure of being a Madrid star get to him, especially when the tough times come, because at such a big club like Madrid, it just takes a loss or a draw or a string of bad performances to get the fans back on the opposing side again and calling for the heads of players. So But I think that from what I've seen from Jude Bellingham so far, he's not just capable, but he has everything it takes. He's as talented as anybody that plays in the midfield in the world today. He has a good stature, he's strong, he's agile, he's mobile, he's willing to work. And these are things that you look for in young players. So, from my perspective, I see him really, you know, bringing more success to Real Madrid and also having the mentality to weather the storm, regardless of whether the team is playing well or whether, they're in the middle of a crisis. But it remains to be seen. At the end of the day, the evidence of all these things still have to be seen. Cyril Gane was able to dispatch Spivak in the second round of his fight. After what John Jones did to him, of course, he still has a lot of redeeming to do to his image. But one thing was obvious to me in this fight. He made sure that he didn't want to take it to the ground. And we all know that the ground was where John Jones beat him. So he's far more comfortable fighting on feet. So all anybody that is fighting Cyril Gane has to do is to just take it to the ground and the fight is going to end as fast as it can. So let me know what you think in the comment section about these three things. Chris Eubank fighting for a world championship at this stage in his career. Jude Bellingham at Real Madrid. And of course, Cyril Gane's, unwillingness to take the fight to the ground and always try to stand on his feet. Basically boxing in the UFC. Let me know what you think about this in the comment section. Like, share, subscribe.
From the referee. Yeah, Goddard is all over this.